It was mid-spring when Rainbow Dash was giving Twilight some flight lessons. Rainbow wanted to demonstrate a sonic rainboom for Twilight, so she can try and do it herself. Twilight watched in awe as Rainbow climbed to the proper altitude to produce enough speed and induce drag for a sonic rainboom. As she descended down, she could feel something was wrong, but she didn't know what it was. She was going through the steps multiple times in her head. She was so determined to figure out what she was missing that she was completely unaware of how close she was to the ground. It would only be a matter of time before she hit the ground at Mach 10 speed. "Dash, look out!" Twilight said anxiously, waiting for Rainbow to come back to awareness. Rainbow then was fully aware of what was going on, but it still took her by surprise. She spread her wings out as far as she could to get some drag going to redirect her body upwards. A loud crack was produced from Rainbow's wings. She then had no control of where she was going and ended up hitting the ground hard enough to knock her out of consciousness. Twilight flew down to see if Rainbow was okay while also sending out a signal from her horn that would be recognized by the ambulance. Twilight's ears grew very hot as she saw the blood flowing from a cyan blue Pegasus wing. She saw a white object sticking out of Rainbow's wing, but it was no object. It was a bone. Rainbow's wing was broken in 3 different places, causing a compound fracture. After the paramedics brought Rainbow Dash to the hospital, she woke up. Twilight had escorted the ambulance to the hospital to make sure her friend was okay the entire way there. "Where am I?" Rainbow asked to herself. "You're in the hospital. You got in an accident while attempting a sonic rainboom," Twilight said reassuringly. "No, I didn't. I probably just fell or something," Rainbow said in denial. "Yeah, you're right. You did fall. From 400 freaking feet!" Twilight said, slightly annoyed. One of the nurses walked in to check up on Rainbow. She asked Twilight to step out of the room because visiting hours was over. Rainbow then lay there alone with nothing to do. Rainbow then heard a quiet whisper from the other side of the curtain in the middle of the room. She just ignored it. But all of a sudden the curtain whipped back and revealed a brown pony with a red and black mane. The pony had its back facing Rainbow so she couldn't see who it was or what it was doing. She heard the pony chanting something over and over again, but she couldn't make out what it was. The pony then turned around and revealed its face. It was a stallion. His eyes were bloodshot, he had massive bags under his eyes, and had a horrifying gash on the side of his face that was still gushing out blood. The curtain then closed again. Rainbow had just realized that no pony was there to open or close the curtain. Rainbow was sitting there completely still and staring at the curtain waiting for it to open again. The nurse then walked into the room to see if Rainbow Dash needed anything. Rainbow shook her head, indicating a no. She asked the nurse if she knew who the pony was that was on the other side of the curtain. She said that there used to be a pony there, but he had died from blood loss and a gash along the side of their face. Rainbow had told the nurse that there was a brown stallion that was chanting something like a psycho on the other side of the curtain. So the nurse pulled back the curtain. Rainbow jumped when she pulled it back fast because of the anticipation. There had been no pony there, but Rainbow could have sworn that there was, just a few moments ago. Rainbow shook her head in denial, trying to signal to the nurse that there had been some pony there. "There was a brown stallion sitting there just a couple of seconds ago, I swear!" Rainbow said. The nurse, clearly thinking she was insane, walks out of the room, jolting her head back and making a wide-eyed face, stating that she had just experienced something really weird and awkward. When the door finally shut, darkness filled the room. Rainbow was looking for the light switch but couldn't find it. When the light quickly filled the room, a brown pony had manifested itself at the foot of Rainbow's bed. She had not seen the entity yet because she was looking through her nightstand for a Daring Do book she had been desperately trying to read. When she finally found the book, she curled back up onto her bed only to bear witness to the same brown stallion that she had seen a few hours ago. The brown stallion was just standing there and staring into Rainbow's soul. She felt as if it could see all of her insecurities and deepest emotions. She stared back at it with her jaw slightly dropped from awe. She didn't know what to do. There were so many things rushing through her mind. She was in shock. Rainbow then realized what was happening and screamed as loud as she could. When she had screamed, the stallion ducked and ran into its dark area behind the curtain while a nurse busted down the door. There is a stallion. He's back there, said Rainbow Dash as she stumbled upon her words. The nurse didn't pay any mind to go and see if there in fact was a pony behind the curtain. She just slipped some pills into Rainbow's drink and made her fall asleep. When the nurse walked out, she told someone to keep an eye on Rainbow in case of any more episodes. She didn't know what was going on, so she asked the brown pony next to her. When he turned around to see what Rainbow was about to ask, she was exposed to the same brown pony that kept showing up in her room. Rainbow quickly snapped back into reality, only to be presented by a brown stallion staring straight into her eyes while being uncomfortably close to her face. Rainbow screamed as loud as she could in order to wake up the nurse pony right beside her, but when she looked, the pony had been gutted and her throat was completely open with a clean slit. Rainbow began to panic and fearing for her own sane life. The brown stallion had gotten even closer than he was before, and Rainbow could feel his cold breath on her face. She knew that this would be the last thing she'll ever see, that this would be the last breath she would ever take before all of it just ended. The brown stallion grabbed the closest pointed object and lifted it above his head. He then thrusted the object into the Pegasi's cyan blue chest, and the bright blue color swiftly changed to crimson. Rainbow was breathing heavily. She then began to choke on her own blood. It was a horrific sight, but seemingly beautiful to the stallion. Rainbow hadn't put up a fight, for she couldn't have. Her wing was broken and she was extremely weak. Rainbow then attempted to take another breath, but the stallion's object intercepted Rainbow's windpipe. Rainbow then quickly died off. The stallion began to dismember the corpse and throw the limbs across the room as a fun game. The nurse opened the door with an adrenaline-induced force and was greeted with the mangled corpse of the Wonderbolt's Rainbow Dash.